I can leave this and I'm gonna have to jump into something that's completely uncertain and I'm not gonna have a clear path ahead of me anymore, but that's fine.
Hey besties, welcome back to another episode of I Missed Me. I am extremely excited today because I have one of my best friends sitting next to me. But the reason why I brought her on is because she has such a beautiful message to share with you guys that I was like, I have to have her on I Missed Me. Her name is MACA. She is a holistic nutritionist, and her goal is to help you build your best life through cultivating healthier habits that you will want to maintain by taking an integrative approach to health. So MACA, welcome to I Missed Me. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. This is an honor.
Let's start by telling people how we met.
Yes, I love that. So I actually found you through your podcast, and I sent you a DM saying that I would love to shoot with you, that I would love to meet you, and I loved everything that you create. What you share on your podcast really helped me a lot in my personal life, and I just really wanted to meet you, co-create with you, because I'm a photographer, and I really wanted to have a photo shoot with you and create a vision and bring it to life. And you said yes. You were super nice, and you spoke about this on your podcast too, in one episode. And we met on the beach. Somehow, I think that was divine timing. It was raining.
It was pouring rain.
On that day that we were supposed to have a beach photo shoot. So we just went to a restaurant, we sat down, and we were just forced to get to know each other, which was the best thing that happened. Honestly, it was perfect. And we just clicked. We clicked so well. And since then, I just feel like we've grown so much and helped each other through so many phases of life. It's just crazy.
It's crazy. And you'll talk about more about everything that you do. But at the time, I posted an episode back in August where I had just moved to Miami, and I was at my lowest point I've ever been. And I was looking for people to hang out with because, I was just new to Miami. And then MACA, the universe put MACA on my way, and we were just forced to have a conversation because it rained. And you can't imagine how much that conversation changed me, but I was going through a lot of changes, and I was just praying and asking the universe for people who matched my frequency, and then MACA appeared in my life. So we're here today, but this is your episode. So I want you to start off by introducing yourself. What do you do, and how did your journey kind of start?
Perfect. Great. So I am a woman of many passions. I love wellness, and I always have, but I feel like as I started growing up and getting older, I really wanted to get more educated in it. That's one of my passions. My biggest passion, to be honest with you, is just photography. It's just something that I could do every day, every single day, and I really enjoy it. I also started all of that last year, started going full force with nutrition last year, everything last year. So I had a corporate job, and I was extremely, extremely burnt out. I was a guest experience manager in a very top-rated resort, right? Very rigid, very just a recipe for stress.
Definition of corporate.
Right, and exhaustion and just a lot of pressure. And I really wanted to do my own thing. So I started studying on the side, and I became a certified holistic nutritionist. And then I also started, just creating a little bit more content, getting used to my camera and just getting creative with it. And then December of 2023, I quit my job and just went full force into uncertainty. Best thing I ever did.
We love people who follow their dreams.
Best thing I ever did, even though it's been really hard. It's been very not steady, right? Yeah. But I don't regret it one bit because it really pushed me into getting to know myself a lot more. And I also had the space and the time to really soak in all the knowledge that I wanted and get more experiences. So as for wellness, again, I was always passionate about it. I always was really interested. I had been a vegan for 4 years before that. And then I started reading more, and there was this one quote that really, really stuck with me. And it said something like, most people will never know how good their body is designed to feel. And I saw that, and I was like, well, I don't want to be one of those people.
Right, I want to feel everything.
I want to know how good I can feel. And it had happened to me first of all, I want to say there's no one diet that fits everyone. I actually don't believe in diets at all, and
we'll talk about that,
for sure. But for me personally, like I don't tolerate things like red meat very well. And when I went vegan, I realized, oh my God, I feel a lot lighter and I felt better in my body and I could have a meal and feel like walking afterwards. So that was a really interesting thing for me because I was used to feeling bloated. And sluggish. And I thought that was just the normal human thing, right? To feel. And then to realize by my own experience that I can try different things and feel even better as I go and explore what works for me and what doesn't is like, everyone should do this, right? So that's just a message that I share, but I share it through a lens of not restricting yourself, not punishing yourself with food or lack thereof, or exercise or lack thereof, right? So yeah.
Which is something that I love about you because it's like very tailored made to your, because we'll get into this, but actually let's talk about it right now because social media pushes us to follow certain stereotypes or like what you said, diets or challenges that like we don't acknowledge the fact that we're all different. Like I, for example, and this is a mistake I made and that's why I want to talk about it. I was seeing 75 hard when it was like...
Me too. I fell
when
into
it was trending on social media. And I did it for like a week and I never in my life felt more tired and more depressed because I am anemic. I can't do 75 hard because I am anemic. I can't work out twice a day. Based on like what like my nutrition says that whatever. So what is your take on online challenges, social media?
I think everything you see in social media, regardless of what area it is in, you should take with a grain of salt, right?
Right.
Let's start there. 75 hard, I did it myself and I took it way longer.
You did the whole thing?
I did. And I made it my entire personality.
What?
This was way before we met. Yes, I did it like in 2019, I want to say, or 2020 maybe, because of, all that.
Yeah.
But I did it. I made it my entire personality. I did like way more than 75 days.
Wow.
It was like 100 and something. And I felt like strong, right? And I was like, oh, this is discipline. Like, this is what I'm supposed to feel like. Like, you fall into it and you think that's what health is. But then again, one thing that I see with wellness trends and really trends in all
general,
senses is that if you swing a pendulum, let's say, all the way to one side, eventually it's gonna swing back full force to the other side, right? So I went from being in my masculine very much and being like disciplined, like a workout or 2 workouts every day, like full force, to being like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I don't feel like doing anything. I don't have energy to invest in myself, let alone anyone else around me, right? So I feel like it really, without me realizing it at the point, it was like part of the recipe to how I got like really burnt out and really sick from that, So I feel that restriction always builds resentment. And that is why I don't support anything like 75 hard, any diets like this where you cut out a whole food group or something that you love, right? If you cut out something that you love, you're building a resentment within yourself and you're also not happy about it. You know what I mean?
Like not putting yourself in a position where you're setting yourself up to judge yourself.
Right. Like people do it as a punishment almost, because social media makes you approach health thinking about the way that you want to look rather than the way that you want to feel. Right. And so
talk to me more about that.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Such a beautiful message.
For sure, because if you're focused on that, it's just like any results that you see are superficial, right? And it's not like I've seen people that look the fittest you can ever imagine, and they're the most miserable. Or they're the most insecure also, because if you don't fix like what's inside, I know this is like super cliche, but if you don't fix the way that you feel about yourself and your motivation to do these things and these lifestyle changes, it's not gonna work. And even if you do change physically, you're not gonna be able to see it if you're operating from this lens of I'm never enough, I'm not enough, I don't look pretty enough or hot enough or whatever, So I feel like I started studying nutrition because I was very interested in, how can I eat to feel and look better? It's not that wanting to look better is something that you want to demonize, right? Like it's not inherently bad, but it's just like, what's the root of your motivation? Anyway, I started learning about these things, and then I realized, well, more important than this, like, yes, this is a message that's good to share, but more importantly, the relationship that you have to food is everything. Because you could eat, like, I don't know, the perfect food or the healthy foods and the salads and whatever, but if it's not making you happy, or it's just fueling more like self-judgment and doubt and, you know, like self-harming habits, then it's not going to be good for you. One thing that I feel like a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this, and you let me know if you do, but in things like diets and restriction and cutting out things like sugar or whatever, I'm not going to say, oh, sugar's good for you, but I'm saying in the terms of like the restriction, let's say that you're craving a little ice cream, right? But you're doing a diet, or you're doing 75 hard, so you're like, oh, okay, let me have a rice cake instead, right? With peanut butter and a banana. And you're like, you eat that and you're not satisfied.
Right.
You're like, fuck, okay, let me have this other thing. And you have another thing, and it piles up, and then you still end up having the ice cream. And what's worse, you end up having it with guilt. Because you already ate all of these things that you didn't want, didn't make you feel satisfied, and you're still going for the thing that you had demonized in your mind. And if you don't demonize it, and you're like, okay, I can have this and it's all gonna be okay, I'm gonna survive, it's not gonna like affect my health or my well-being in a very negative way, because it's just one, it's in abundance, like I can enjoy this fully, then it's not gonna have an effect on you.
You're literally setting yourself up for self-conflict, you know?
For sure.
How did that personal journey start for you? Like, did you always know that you wanted to see nutrition from that side of like, have no judgment, or was it you that you started judging yourself and being like, okay, like I don't want to be like this anymore? How did that start?
Okay, I'll say a big statement here, and I think that you don't have to have an eating disorder diagnosis for you to eat in a disordered way.
And
right?
for you to feel like your relationship with food is not healthy.
Right. Like there's always things that you can improve, and in my life, I never had a diagnosis of an eating disorder, even though I'm very informed in it. I've read about it so much. Like on my free time, I'm like listening to content about this because it's also what I work with, and it's something that I'm very interested in. But what I mean to say by what I just said, the not needing a diagnosis to eat in a disordered way, is that these things are part of our culture, right? Like diet culture. It's like you're eating with a friend and you eat like a big thing and you
feel guilty.
Right, you feel guilty, or you say like, oh, we're gonna have to like walk this off, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, like all of these like tiny things that you don't realize are part of the culture that's making you
do that to
yourself.
Even if it's like a joke.
Right. And people say it as a joke, but then you see the root of it and it's like, let's unpack that.
Yeah. It's not funny.
Right. It's like, I don't know. Let's say like we're having a big meal and then I say, well, I'm not gonna have breakfast tomorrow. It's like,
exactly.
I don't need to have like an anorexia diagnosis for that to be disordered, right? Or like when people say, let's walk it off, let's burn it off, we have to do some cardio after this. That's like something that if you don't,
it's like an unconscious guilt.
Right. And that's like bulimia, right? Like far down the road, that can become that diagnosis.
Yeah.
Or orthorexia is a big one that I talk about a lot, because it's people that get overly obsessed with food, right? And the health qualities or the toxic qualities that a food can have, right? So it's like, oh, this has oxalates, this is gonna be so bad for me. And it's like spinach.
Right.
Like how bad is spinach for you?
Yeah.
Like how much do you have to eat for the negative or not so good things about it to really affect you, right?
Yeah.
And that, if I had something that I was like inching more towards in my like healthy lifestyle, the 75 hard lifestyle, was that. Like I was very overly aware of what I was putting into my body, to the point that it was making me self-conscious and nervous.
How is that? What's the root of that? Like, how did that start? Because like obviously when we're kids, we don't care about anything that we eat unless our parents are like super strict with like what we eat. But like a kid eats a lollipop and like doesn't feel guilty. It's like more when we start growing up that we start with like feeling insecure about our body, our food, or whatever, relationships. How did that start for you? Or when?
It's like almond moms, right?
Yeah.
Even though my mom is not an almond mom, and I thank her so much for the way that she raised me. But I feel like that happens a lot. Like people get these ideas in their childhood, but we also get them in social media. And I feel like that was a culprit for me in my life. Just like seeing a lot of like fitness influencers or like just wellness creators, right? Like what's the idea of the wellness girly? It's like this girl with like wearing full on Lululemon and like a perfect like slick back bun and like
green smoothies
and super skinny, right? And like you know, like this idea that we have, and it's honestly based on like consumerism and capitalism.
Yeah,
and it's an elitist. Elitist. I don't know how you say it. English just like escaped me.
Okay.
For a moment. But it's just like it has these roots we don't notice, and then we think that that's who we want to be. But that's
based on a 7-second video.
On a 7-second video, and it's just based on an industry that wants you to buy more and more things and
more expensive things too, because eating healthy is expensive.
Right, and that is also a problem with the food industry. Like we cannot forget that. Like there's like, wait, I'm getting emotional. I'm getting emotional because this thing affects me so much. Like people think that health has to be this very like super expensive thing, and it's sad because there's like food deserts in America. Like right here, there's like places where you can't find the healthier options, right? Like you can even find them, and then the other places that you go, the healthy option is a lot more expensive, right? So it's just like it gives you a lot. It's very overwhelming.
It is, and the more you get into it, the more overwhelming it is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and that's why I obviously if you can afford all of these biohacks and all of these things, all the power to you. But people have to realize that people are selling that. And the people that are posting about it on TikTok probably got it sent to them for free. Yeah. And it's probably a brand deal. Like you don't need a red light panel to be healthy and feel good, right?
I always encourage that. You know that like, this can be controversial, but that Bloom brand, have you seen it?
Yeah, no.
It tastes like ass. Like it. I am so sorry, but it is like one of the first brand deals actually that I closed, and I was reached out to them because back in 2020, like that brand was everywhere. Like you would see those little like green juices everywhere, and like it was the one of the first brands that reached out to me. They were paying like $200 for a 7-second video, and I was like, okay, like yeah, like whatever, yeah, of course. And I tried it, and I could never bring myself to post it because I was like, if one person buy this from me, and no, it tastes like actual ass. Like there's not one influencer that I know that has liked it, and they just get paid so much. And it's like, don't believe everything that you see on the internet because that brand has a big budget. And I had to reach out to them and be like, you know what? Like I really did not like your product. Like you do not have to pay me. I'll send the product back. Like I used it, I'll send it back, but it tastes like actual shit. And like,
and not everyone has that standard that you have. Like not everyone is gonna see something that is inherently like not good for you
and
or
not
like
posted
right? Like people will share about it because you know, again, like people are trying to make money, and that's okay, it's valid, but you have to think about who's going to receive this content, right? I am also like this. Like if I am to work with a brand or promote a product, I'm only going to promote something that I really trust and I believe in, whether it's like for myself or for like a good majority of people. But yeah, about that, I also want to say there's a lot of people creating content about how everything is bad for you. And I hate that too, right? It's like these videos talking about like your air fryer is toxic and then the microwave is toxic and then your shower water. And like, I get it. Like, again, if you have the time and the energy and the money to invest in these things, like that's great. But if you're like a single mom or you're, you know, like just in college and like trying to get by, like I don't want you to worry about like having to buy the shower filter or replacing your air fryer with a blah.
And we've talked about this before where we have conversations, the two of us, is like the worst place to live in is in fear. And like social media puts you, especially with like food and all of these things that we're talking about, it puts you in a place of fear of like, I'm afraid of what I eat. I'm afraid of what I use. I'm afraid of the water I drink. And it's like, no, like be at peace. Even if like you have to stay away from some information, it is better to live at peace and not knowing than knowing and in fear. So.
Right. And for me, I've realized in my body, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've realized how differently I can tolerate food when I eat something and I can fully enjoy it, and when I eat it with guilt or with fear of like, oh my God, this is going to make me bloat, or this is going to be bad for me or whatever. Like,
it's like psychosis. It's
it
like
is tipo psychosomatic, right? It's just like cheese, for example.
Yeah.
For me, I used to eat cheese, and like, again, I also did like a lot of protocols to like heal my gut and like help it like repair and tolerate things a lot better. But like I was highly sensitive to so many things, and like cheese and gluten. And when I would eat cheese, I would always be thinking of that, right? Because that was my experience, and that's what people said online or whatever. And it's like, oh my God, like I'm already gonna get a pimple for this. Like I know, haha. And I would joke about it. Next day, guess what? Like, pimple, like a third eye right here, or something like this, right? And then years went by. I started incorporating like other like high quality animal products into my diet, and I ate a little like cheesecake or whatever it is, like whatever I ate that had the thing that I was so afraid of in the past.
Yeah.
And I was completely fine. Like completely fine. No reaction whatsoever. I actually felt good.
It's so interesting because I don't have enough knowledge to like talk about it where it's a point where like everything is mental. Like I can't say that for sure because I don't know it. I might like I think it is, but I don't know it, so I'm not gonna talk about it. But a lot of things are mental. A lot of things are mental. And like the more grace that you have with yourself of like, it is okay to eat this. Right. Like obviously like allergies and stuff, like I'm not, that's why I'm not talking about it, because I don't have the knowledge too. But a lot of things are very, very mental. So
right. And it's obviously not to discredit a food intolerance or a sensitivity.
No,
like that's
exactly.
very
I don't want to
real.
get into that because I have no knowledge, but
right. No, and like I do, and like obviously that is something that's real. It's not all spiritual, right? It's not like, oh, like teach yourself to like release the fear and it's gonna be fine. Like no, like for some people that's
like
not
if your
the
throat
case.
closes with nuts, don't
Right,
eat nuts,
like,
you know, like fucking dying after watching this episode. I know.
I don't want that. I don't want that on my conscience. But yeah, exactly. It's just like there's things, and it really comes with a discernment, right? Like that's why I encourage people to work on their relationship with food, and then you can be your own judge and like really reassess like from time to time. Okay, I can eat this and feel very good, and I feel energized, so I'm going to continue eating it, and that's fine. Or if I don't, and it's actually still giving me a reaction, okay, maybe this is not for me, and that's okay. I can find so many alternatives for this particular food.
How do you work on learning how to give grace with yourself in terms of, you know, not even forgiving, but accepting yourself of like, it is okay to eat this and nothing is going to happen to me? Because I know that you went on a trip and you started eating a lot of things that you didn't eat when I met you, and you felt so much better, and you would always like text me like, I'm so happy I ate this. I'm like, I'm so happy you did.
Right.
But how do you work on that relationship with yourself, like more personally, of it is okay?
Right.
Like, how do you start giving grace to yourself?
I am going to bring back this question to the nervous system.
Okay.
And just going to say, I started regulating myself and giving
How?
myself.
Can you?
Sure. So yeah, it's just basically I started to realize I have to build a sense of safety within myself if I actually want to enjoy my life. Like not even this food or this trip or whatever. It's just like if I want to be a happy, healthy person, which is like my username, it's like I need to make myself feel safe because I'm the only one that's responsible for that safety feeling. And you know, in my personal life, like safety is always what I've seeked, like since I was this big, right? Yeah. And so EFT tapping helped me a lot. Have you heard about this technique?
I love to hear about it.
It's beautiful. So it's a technique of nervous system regulation, essentially, where you're like tapping on different points of your face and your body, and you're repeating affirmations, right? And the cool thing about it is that you can do it with affirmations to, let's say, work through a blockage or an emotion, or you can also just use it to pretty much reprogram your subconscious, right? And if I would feel very anxious, like before, I don't know, like a meal or a trip or something, I started like incorporating that, and that really helped. Meditation, breath work, going for a walk, like whatever helps. Like I'm not saying EFT is a recipe for everybody, but at least with my clients, some people that struggle with binge eating, I've made like custom EFT tapping like situations for them. And it's helped them a lot. Like in terms of, okay, I have this urge. It feels like the most overwhelming thing. Like this want for mac and cheese or Oreos or whatever is stronger than anything in my life right now. So I'm going to try and work through it. I'm going to regulate myself through it. And then I'm free to make a choice still. this is not something that I do to say I'm not gonna have it anymore because I regulated myself. It's no, I still have the freedom,
Right.
but I can eat it in a regulated state.
Exactly.
Right? And if I manage to do that with everything in my life,
that's so important.
It's without limiting yourself. So whatever you can do to regulate your nervous system, whether it's literally putting like an ice pack on your neck to like stimulate your vagus nerve, whatever it is, all of these things help, and it's free. And that's why I recommend it. It's like accessible to everyone. I'm not going to say, oh, the thing that helped me the most was this supplement, right? Because it's like,
no.
It's really not. Like, it all starts in the mind, right? Not everything is mental, like you said, but so much of our human experience roots from our
mind
perception.
and our body. Because I've been hearing about especially the nervous system a lot and how it influences a lot of the decisions that you make in your life. Like I had a conversation with Tom Bilyeu, where he said that like one of the reasons why he was so miserable was because he didn't have his nervous system regulated. And it was because he was drinking Monster and coffee and stuff. But you don't realize how much that actually affects your life. Like the worst decisions that I've made of like reaching out to people that I know are not good for me or like staying in relationships are because of urges that my nervous system makes me make of like, I have anxiety, I have to text this person. I have anxiety, I have to call this person. I have anxiety, I have to eat this. And like most of the mistakes that we make that are not mistakes, are lessons, are because we don't have our nervous system regulated. So if you can, like if you know that you have to regulate your nervous system, I definitely recommend finding a technique that's like gonna work. I can't do tapping. It hurts my skin. I don't know why it gives me so much anxiety. It hurts my skin. I'm like super sensitive to pain,
And that's fine. It's not for you.
Exactly. And I'm sure that there's a lot of methods to like maybe stop drinking coffee.
Right.
Or maybe stop drinking energetic drinks that, go to sleep, have enough sleep, or like have a healthy, diet that works for you, that allows you to regulate your nervous system. But definitely a lot of decisions come from our nervous system.
And it's looking at your habits and where they really stem from. Like this one assessment that you can do is just like seeing what you do every day, or whenever you choose, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to open the blinds, whatever. Maybe not that tiny, but like any activity that you're going to do. After you do it, you're like, okay, did that make me feel like better or worse, right? Because so many of our behaviors are self-soothing.
Yeah.
Like people rarely look at food as a source of nutrition these days. It's like, it's a source of comfort. It's a source of joy. It's like, it's so many things other than its main purpose.
Yeah.
Right? And
is it actually good for you?
Right. Or like how it's going to nourish you and like the energy that it's going to give your body. Right. So you can eat something that's like really tasty, but if after you eat it, you do this assessment, you ask yourself, okay, do I feel energized or depleted? It gives you a better idea of like, okay, how is this really going to work for you in the long term, right? And the idea is not for you to restrict it, but for you to have this awareness of like, okay, I don't know, I had a conversation with you and I felt so good after. And then, I don't know, I went back to the toxic ex or whatever. I'm not saying I did, not me. Married.
She's married.
But whatever. Like, but I went back to a toxic ex and I felt like shit about myself, right? So like the dichotomy of that is only there for you to practice that discernment and say, okay, next time I'm going to choose this, I'm going to choose it, but I am radically honest with myself and I know why.
Your body literally speaks to you. And it's not just food, it's relationships too. It's like sometimes you hang out with a person and you feel even more tired than before you were with that person. And it's like you have to start paying attention to your body a lot. I want to talk about your passions because I know that you are obviously, you studied nutrition and everything, but that's not your main passion. And you said at the beginning it's photography. And I love that because that's how we met.
Yeah.
And I admire you and just people in general that are able to be like, I'm not happy, I have to leave. Because sometimes because of fear, it's like, I'm not happy, but this is safe and I'm staying here. Like you could have chosen to stay in a corporate job, even if you wanted to, pursue your dreams because of safety, which is something that you've pursued your whole life. So for you to like be able to step out of your comfort zone and be like, I choose happiness is so brave. And I admire you so much for that. And especially now that I like, dropped out of college and I shared that decision with you of like, obviously I'm scared and like things could go wrong, but I know that I'm happy now, So how did you feel? Let's start from the beginning and like, how did you start feeling like it wasn't for you? Like when do the sparks start of like, I want to pursue another thing that is not corporate job? Like what were the fears of leaving and how was that journey for you?
For sure. I love talking about this because I feel like so many people are going to be able to relate.
Yeah.
And I studied and majored in hospitality. I prepared like what seemed like my whole life at the time for this, right? And it's like, I remember telling myself and telling you the day we met, because I was just telling you the story. It's like, oh, who am I if I am not what I do? Or who am I if I'm not doing what I was supposed to, right?
Yeah.
What I prepared for my whole life. And I just started asking myself these questions because I was feeling very not satisfied.
It's like
Right. Like I knew it, like deep inside, I knew it, that I was like going to work, and my pre-work ritual started with me getting excited to go to work. And then few months later, it started with me crying on the way to work, right? Or like just like holding in the tears and just like, okay, let me get through this day. And that's not the life that I wanted to live. And it's not to say, oh, you should quit something the moment that it gets hard. That's not what I promote at all. And there's a
especially if it's something that you like.
Right. It's a beautiful thing to commit to something, but I just knew this wasn't the thing to commit to. And I knew that it was making me sick and tired, right? When people say I'm sick and tired of this, I was sick and I was tired. Like I was getting, like colds and flus all the time, bloated with, I wish I had a picture to show you, but I blocked that era out of my life.
She was pregnant.
But I, like this, and it's just like everything in me and everything around me was like screaming for me to like wake up, right? I wasn't present for myself, let alone others, like my parents. I was barely seeing them. I lived with them at the time. So I would go to work all day, like, I don't know, let's say 11 hours on a shift. I would go home and all I wanted to do was be by myself in bed, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't seeing my friends. I wasn't connecting to my partner. I wasn't connecting to my family. I wasn't connecting to myself. And I was just like, this is not sustainable. And one thing that helped me, right? Because you have the safety and you think it's very tempting, right? To have the stability of a job or to have, a path ahead of you that's very clear. I started as a coordinator, then assistant manager, then manager. What's next, right? But I looked at the people ahead of me in these paths and I was like,
do I want to be like them?
They don't seem happy, and like that's not the lifestyle I want to live. Like if I want to travel the world and make friends through that path, like if I chain myself to an institution, is that gonna give me that freedom? Not really. Or at least it's gonna give me 2 weeks a year, but I don't want just 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So not everyone is supposed to quit their job. Like it's not for everyone. I also don't want to be part of the people who pressure everyone into thinking like, well, if you're in the 9 to 5, it's your fault or whatever.
No.
Like that's being a content creator is not for everyone either, right? Like you just have to think about what really works for you. Like if it genuinely makes you happy. I know people that are genuinely happy in the industry that I used to work at.
And I admire them so much because like you go to a hotel and like those are the people that work, with you, like I admire that so much. Like people who genuinely like love 9 to 5s. It's like, I just could never see myself being that person, but I have so much admiration for people that do and like genuinely enjoy it. Yeah. I always say online that when it's time for like change in your life, like life will pressure you and make you feel so miserable to the point that you have no other option but to change. Yeah. What was that low point for you? Like what was that day that you were like, I just can't do this anymore?
I'm not sure it was a certain day, but I think it was a realization of I don't remember when was the last time that I did something for myself. And it happened to me on the opposite end. Like when I stopped taking birth control, I had taken it for a long time and I stopped, and 2 weeks after, it changes your hormones. It changes a lot about you. And I encourage people to like do their own research on that. But I remember like 2 weeks after taking it and being in the car and realizing, oh my God, I feel like myself again. And I started like crying a happy tear, and that was beautiful. But the flip side of that was being there, like having that lifestyle and just realizing, oh my God, I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy for anything. Like even when it's my day off, I'm scared of doing something that spends energy because I know it's going to take away from what I'm going to have to give in 2 days from now, right? Like when I go back to work. So I wasn't doing anything with my life and I was just so miserable. And like obviously that was part of my experience as well. And I'm really grateful for it because it showed me just how much I'm capable of. But it also showed me I can leave this and I'm going to have to jump into something that's completely uncertain. And I'm not going to have a clear path ahead of me anymore. But that's fine. Like I'm going to have to like build it as I go. And I have been building it as I go. And again, it's not something that's stable or steady or defined. That's the nature of it, right? I've had moments where it's like, okay, I'm not making enough from this alone. So I'm going to have to do Uber Eats, or I'm going to have to go get a part-time job to make ends meet and feel comfortable and feel safe, right? Because safety is the most important thing for me in my life. But it's still so worth it, right? Like to do whatever you can to allow yourself the time and energy and space to do something that actually lights you up. Because I kid you not, like obviously in wellness too, and when I get a message from someone that really changed their life with, I don't know, like reading my burnout ebook, or, you know, just working together, or after a photo shoot, right? Like reading those like testimonials in a sense is super like rewarding. But also like, again, in wellness and in photography and whatever I do that I'm actually passionate about, it just feels different in your body, right? And it's just like, it's so worth any uncertainty. It's so worth any mishaps.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? In your path, because it's just the thing that I love doing the most. Like I remember being a shoots like with my camera and like women in nature, and it's just,
she's so good, guys.
Thank you.
She's so good.
Thank you. And I want to do so much more of that, you know, but realizing that it's like, I only realized it was possible for me because I jumped into it without knowing if it was possible. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not trying to say, oh, I am a fully booked photographer and I'm published in this and this, because I'm not yet. But it's like, I started photography 2023 in January, like
a year
fully, right? And then in December, I was flying to Spain for a photo shoot, right? So, and I'm not, you know, like,
right,
that's possible for me. That was possible for me. Like, I didn't even...
And for anyone who wants to, like, that's another question, like, one of the main reasons why people stay in relationships, and I always say relationships and people think about like, okay, romantic relationship, like toxic relationships, but everything in your life is a relationship. Like your relationship with money, your relationship with your job, your relationship with like work, your friends, your family, like
food, your body, right? Like
everything is a relationship because you're connected. So one of the main like reasons why people don't leave toxic relationships period is because of fear. How did you, obviously there was fear in you of like, once I quit my corporate job, what the fuck am I gonna do? But like, how do you embrace that fear of, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it is okay to not know, like with grace of like, it is okay. It is okay to not know, but I'm still gonna do it.
Well, uncertainty and I have an intricate relationship. Like it's always something that I've like been working with, and I'm not in a perfect place with it right now, but I'll tell you two things. One, I have to acknowledge I was in a position of privilege when I did that choice.
That too.
I did know like, okay, I have a husband that he's not going to let me like starve because I'm not getting clients. I have my parents that are always going to support me no matter what. If, I don't know, something were to happen and we cannot live outside anymore, we can come back and it's all gonna be fine. And we did go back, right? And it's just like in getting the details right, I do have something to fall back on, and that's something that I'm really grateful for, because I do have to acknowledge how other people who don't have these privileges feel. Like it's a deeper fear. Like my fear was valid, but it's nothing compared to someone who still wants to take a choice, right? But I will say something that has always been a part of me is I'm not afraid to be the first one to jump into something. Like, I'm not afraid to be the first person to say hi. And like, I texted you, like, you could have been like, you weren't obviously, but you could have been like rude or been like, who is this? And like, just like left me an open, but it's just like, yeah, that's a possibility I'm like happy to deal with. Like my friends joke around with me. It's like, yeah, I'm sure you'd DM like Obama if it were the case, right? And like, I really would. Like if I had something like that I wanted to say, like I would. So I just jumped in.
So you have no fear of rejection? Because that is something that I've had to like work on, because I I've worked on that too, where it's like now I'm not afraid to start a conversation, to like reach out to people. But there's definitely a time where I was, and I would have not. So I've definitely had to like work on my fear of rejection, and I talk about it a lot, where it's like the worst thing that people can say is no. Like the worst thing that can happen is for a door to close and then another one to open. But like how is that for you?
That's the thing. It's like, is rejection that bad? Like the worst thing that someone can say is no. And that's a favor that they're doing to you, right? So it's just like, you just made me realize, but I really don't think that rejection has such a big place in my life.
In your life.
Or in my mind, at least. It's just like, it's part of what I do. Like,
how
if
do
I'm
you
a
think that
freelancer,
someone can, sorry, I interrupt you, but how do you think someone can work on it? Because there's definitely a lot of people that listen to the podcast and like, that are very afraid of rejection or not finding better.
I feel like it's exposure therapy, at least for me, in my experience. It's just like, it's that cliche quote. I hate being the cliche person, but it's what it is. It's for a reason. It's just like, feel the fear and do it anyway. Right? Like, reach out to that person, do it anyway. Like, send the email, or like, if you have to quit the job, quit, but like, leave them a good time to find somebody else. Like, you can do things in a way that's not necessarily like cutting a cord, right? Like, if you want to try something else in your professional life, like, you can leave in good standing with this company, whether it be that company or something else, and you can say, okay, I'm going to try this out for a while, and if it doesn't work out, I can go back to where I was, or I can find something different altogether, like that's not necessarily in the plan, right? So I think it's that. It's just like actually giving it an honest try, because something that I've realized in my life is just like, struggling with resistance. Like, if you're not seeing results, people are very quick to complain, and I'll raise my hand and I'll say, I've been the person that's quick to complain, because it's like, I'm not getting enough results, or I'm not where I want it to be. But that has like a side to it where it's like, am I really doing like an honest try?
Right.
Am I really like giving it my very best? And if I'm not, then I reassess. Right. So I think it's that. It's just like giving it an honest try and like actually committing to the thing that you want. Like, sometimes I got a part-time job just recently, and I started working front desk at a spa just so I can like have my photography clients out of ease, and like they just like flow to me, or like they come from recommendations, or I just like pitch, but I just want to work with my dream clients. And if it's not going to be them, I can chill, I can do something else to give me like stability and whatever, and then I can come back to it, right?
I was going to ask, because one of the things that I admire the most about you is that you have like just so much self-forgiveness in you, because we've talked about like the relationships you've been through and like situations that you've been through, but like not once have I heard you speak from a place of anger, but it's more from a place of like love. But you're also really good at setting boundaries. How does that journey start?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, because I'm not sure it starts or ends, right? It's just that little spiral of life where I've circled back to similar situations to the ones I've been in before, and I've realized, okay, last time I was living in fear and very attached to like everything around me, and just very much resistant to what is, and telling myself, okay, can I be a little bit more accepting of the situation this time? And I try that, and it works a little better. And so I circle back to it again in some other situation, or some other person, or city, or job, or whatever. And it's just like, can I try better this time? And it's just that.
Right.
It's just that. I do feel like I'm very forgiving of myself, because I always do my best.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the best in somebody else's eyes, I know that I'm doing my very best. And that's enough for me. So I'm not operating from I'm not doing enough anymore. When I was doing 75 hard, to tie back into that, I was, right? Because I was being a perfectionist to the point that it was isolating me from other people and my environment and so many things, right? But coming into that acting from, this is uncertain and it's okay, and I can just navigate this like day by day, and there's no timeline and there's no rush, that I feel like has really helped me, right? Like, what's the rush?
What is your biggest advice when it comes to self-forgiveness?
Not even for self-forgiveness, but just for life in general, just practicing radical honesty, right? I feel like I used to lie to myself a lot. And I know people do. Like, we're all human. Like, we want to convince ourselves in like delusion, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I should do, or I'm not supposed to feel this way, or this is what it is, right? So, just kind of deconstructing that a little bit, and being really honest with yourself. Like, is this actually what I want for myself? Is this actually what I want for my life? Like, when I eat this food, do I actually feel good, right? Or like, am I doing all these things that I'm doing because they genuinely make me happy, or because it's what I think I'm supposed to be doing, or it's because it's what I see girls doing on TikTok, right? It's just like finding the root cause of what you do and why you do it. I think that's good for self-forgiveness. Yeah, that's what's helped me in my life, right? Just like seeing my motives and things and being honest about them, and then just like reassessing from there and going on. Like, it's committing for yourself. It's committing to yourself and just showing up for yourself regardless of how you feel. I don't think you have to have a checklist of things that you have to complete each day. That's me. I'm very self-forgiving now. Maybe I'm too self-forgiving to the point that I sometimes don't do as much as the next person, like theoretically or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think you have to have a checklist of like, workout and then do this and for one day, and then if you didn't do it, it was a horrible day for you, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, because if I was burnt out and super tired because I have a very heavy week and then I didn't work out, it's not a failure. It's actually a win, because I was able to like rest my body, right? And just kind of detaching from what you think you should do and realizing that healthy and happy looks different on everybody, right? Like, if you see this person online doing, I don't know, eating a certain way, what I eat in a day, those videos, no. I'm sorry, but no, it's just no. That type of thing, like, you see that and then it's like, okay.
And then it's like a toast with strawberries on top.
Right, or like, or something super fake, and it's like a day in my healthy life, and like, I've seen those videos and I've responded to them, because it's like,
how do you even know that's actually like all of their days? It's like,
first, you don't even know, but
exactly.
second, like, even if you were to eat, because a lot of people have like their like inspiration, or like there's someone that they look up to, whether it's like in an industry and fitness and wellness, whatever it is, even if you were to do exactly by the book everything this other person does, you're not gonna look like them, and you're not gonna feel like them, because it's social media. You have no idea what that person feels like.
And that is for everything, like makeup trends, clothing trends, like, you know, like my content like varies depending on like my personal brand and like whatever. Right now I'm like I went through like this rebranding in my head of like, what do I want my platforms to be in 2024, and it's my voice and my message. But I've definitely had those struggles of like, what do I want to post? Okay, I want to post clothing, hair videos, makeup videos, and it's like, the more that you start, you know, consuming it, the more that the algorithm starts putting it to you. And it's like, everybody is doing their makeup the same, and everybody has a different face, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how that happens with everything on social media. Like, everyone has the same diets, but every body is different, you know? If I were to follow diets that I see online, I would probably be in a hospital right now, because again, I'm anemic. There's a certain food that I have to eat a lot of red meat, a lot. And you're vegan. Right. So if I were to follow,
not vegan anymore.
No, okay, but you're not?
No. Girl.
Oh, okay. No, but my point is, like, if I were to follow, let's say, someone that I don't know, and I'm like, it says not to, like, don't eat red meat, and it's like, I stop eating red meat, then I'm not going to have any blood, you know?
It's not good for you, right?
Exactly. So finding what it's best for you and what makes you happy in every single aspect of your life, and also acknowledging the fact that social media is fake. It really is fake. It's not real. Yeah. So, and this was something that we were talking about that in the episode that I just recorded. It's like, social media is not toxic, but the content that you choose to consume is.
Yeah. Something that this is part of like my life philosophy. It's like, everything can be the most sacred thing or the most corrupt thing in the world, like every single thing. And I see it, let's say, in photography, like a woman's body.
Yeah.
It can be the most like artistic, beautiful, like just soft and like perfect thing, like it's just pure art, or it can be like the thing that people demonize the most, and like the thing that people like hate to see, and like put a woman down for like showing her body. Like everything has a contrast, right? But it's really how you use it.
Yeah.
That defines the meaning for you. And honestly, it doesn't matter how everyone else sees it, this particular thing, you have to see how it fits with you, right? Like if social media, like I enjoy it because I make
I love social media.
Yeah, like you love it too because you're authentic within it, right? Like you show like yourself as you are, like you only promote the things that you believe in, and people see that, and that magnetizes more real people. So it's what's gonna show you, and it's just
yeah.
you know, expanding itself. But not everyone is like this. So if there's one person that it actually gives them like anxiety, then why would you continue like feeding into that space, right? Like for me, it honestly, I'm not in a place where it makes me feel like less than enough, or it makes me feel like insecure. Like if I see someone with like a fitter body than mine, it's like good for her. Like that's good. Like I encourage that. That's amazing. But like my goal is not to get a six pack. So like I'm not gonna post about it. I'm not gonna like try and get it because I don't think like,
I'm not gonna keep consuming it because it's not something that I want to keep seeing. Maybe like
and like for a lot of people,
yeah, I wanted to talk about photography because it's your passion, and I love how happy you get when you talk about photography. But what is photography is art, and I am so passionate about it too because my sister she's not a photographer, but like everything, she takes really good pictures, pictures. People always ask me like, where do you get your pictures taken? Like everything is like my sister. She's like the best.
Lucky you. That's good.
I know, I love her. But what's the most, because you photograph women, you love photographing women in nature. What's the most beautiful thing that you've learned about your job?
There's so many. I've been really thinking of making a whole like series about like what I've learned photographing women. Because it's a mirror. Like I think everything is a mirror. You're a mirror of me. I'm a mirror of you. Like everything is a reflection of everything, right?
That's why I say, I'm so happy that you say that. Sorry that I interrupt you, but if everyone is a mirror, if everything is a mirror, ask yourself if you like what you see in the mirror. Of like, if someone were to tell me that I'm just like you because you're my friend, of like, if someone were to tell me, oh my gosh, you're her friend, like you're just like MACA, how would I feel? You know? And if you wouldn't feel proud about being like me, then why do you have me around?
I love that. Yeah. Oh, that was groundbreaking. You gave me like chills saying that. Because I'd be so honored.
Yeah. Like, oh I wouldn't, if someone were to tell me like, you're just like MACA, and I would be like, oh my God, no, I don't want to be like her, then why do I even have you around, you know? So keep relationships in your life that inspire you to be like them. That's like my whole little point about like mirrors and stuff, but sorry.
No worries. And also with partners, right? It's like...
with everything. Imagine if someone were to tell you like, you're just like your husband, and you were like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to be like...
Or better yet, your son is just like your husband.
Exactly.
Right? Like, how would that
How would you feel?
Or, I don't know, your boyfriend... Like that's the exact same type of boyfriend that your daughter's gonna have.
I know.
Would you be happy or would you be like terrified? Right? That's a good. I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that. Yeah. Okay, so yes, everything is a mirror. So again, like there are many things, like we could do 5 episodes about this, but for one, in both photography and in nutrition coaching and in everything, my goal is to make someone feel comfortable as they are.
And you really do.
Thank you.
You really do.
Thank you. I love that. I'm happy that it like shows because I really feel it, and I won't like engage in it if it doesn't feel like
you
that,
really
right?
do. And like one of the main reasons why my sister takes all of my pictures is because I don't feel comfortable being photographed. Like as much as I love posting content and like taking pictures, I don't feel comfortable being photographed. I just don't feel comfortable, and not in a creepy way. I just don't feel comfortable. Like I can't be myself in front of a camera if the right person is not behind the camera. And I was at my lowest, and you made me feel so comfortable. So you really do. Like I just wanted to let you know that you really do. You really do. Yeah, so you really do.
Yeah, and like I've also had the contrast. Like even in my own personal experience, like I used to like, I don't know, I didn't used to model, right? Like not professionally, but I had like photographers take my picture in the past, and like I also did have a very uncomfortable like situation.
We've talked about it too, yeah.
And like I honestly realized I had blocked like a lot of it before. Like,
you sugarcoated it so much. Like, girl, you
and
were.
then I went on the DMs. Like, remember, I opened the DMs and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I was groomed, bro.
Yeah, this girl was groomed and she didn't know it.
Like, Jesus, you know? Looking into that, like, I just want to be a safe space, like, for everybody around me. So it's helped me be a safer space towards myself, right? Because I cannot possibly tell a woman with a real female body, like, oh, your stretch marks are beautiful, and then go home and criticize mine, right? And so it
would be fake, even if you said it.
And like, it's honestly like seeing nothing but pure beauty in everyone else, like regardless of whatever it is that they look like, has showed me how to like practice that unconditional love for myself. So that's why I love it so much. But it's also shown me how there's like beauty standards, right? And beauty is not what you should pursue.
Right.
Like, focusing on how you look rather than how you feel is the worst thing that you can do for yourself, because it doesn't change a thing. And I've seen women, like, I've been in environments like photographing like a lot of women at once and like just interacting with them. And I've seen these women that like literally look like Barbie, right? Like, it's like, oh, the beauty standard or whatever. And they're putting themselves down like I've never seen before, right? So it's just like, sometimes the pretty girl is the most insecure one and is the least happy one, right?
Yeah.
And so I've realized that, and it's been really eye-opening for me. It's just like, everyone is beautiful. Like, there's beauty in every single body and every single face, like, and every single soul as well. Like, regardless of like how, I don't know, toxic this person could be, it's like everyone's doing the best they can, right? So I can appreciate that and like see it as art. And my intention is just to help reflect that.
How do you define beauty?
I think it's this thing, like this magic thing that just permeates the entire universe. Because I'm not religious, but like for me, God is like nature. It's this, everything, like around us, right? It's just, it's inherent. It's like an inherent thing of nature. And that's why a lot of times I'm talking about my work and I'm like, yes, I photograph women and nature, even though they're the same thing. Like, we're the same thing. So it's just, it's who we are. I don't think it's something that we have to like pursue and like inch towards. It's just, it's part of us, right? There's a beauty industry that paints a certain picture for all of us, and it tells us like, oh, beauty is this, beauty is that. It's what you see on social media, or it's what you see in the movie stars or magazine covers, whatever it is. But it's really such a universal thing that if you can like break away from that conditioning and like start seeing beauty in yourself, like you'll see it in everything else. Because like it goes hand in hand with unconditional love. Right?
Yeah.
We look different every day. We feel different every day, but we can't make our love depend on how pretty we feel or like how happy we feel, because we need to like care for ourselves and each other regardless, right? To the best of our ability. So yeah, I don't know if that defines beauty, but that's...
I don't think it has a definition. It's more like feeling at peace with however you feel inside, and because of how much you feel inside, you literally forget about how you look externally. So I don't know if I would be even able to define it, but thank you so much for being here with me today. I am so grateful about you and our friendship, and like the type of people that I've been able to connect. Like, the more that I work on myself, the better the people that I connect with, and in that process of self-growth, I met you. So
thank you. That resonates so much. And for me too, like I saw a post of yours like the other day, and also this morning on my For You page, it popped up the video that you did when we met, like of this day that we met.
Really?
Yeah. It's like crazy. And like seeing that, it's just like, oh my God, like right now, like I've always loved my friends, like at the times that I've had them, but like I don't feel like there's any time in my life where I've really felt so aligned with everyone in my life right now. Like,
Same.
It's mind-blowing, but it's really because we're acting in line with our passion.
If you're aligned with yourself, like everything else aligns around you, because even if it's not aligned, then you acknowledge the fact that it's not aligned, then you let it go. So that's why like self-alignment is so important. But yeah, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for this conversation. We'll definitely have more. Where can people find you? social media? Where are you? What type of content do you do for people to follow you?
Great. So you can find me at Happy Healthy MACA. That's the same on all platforms. MACA is MACA. It's not my full name. My full name is Maria Carolina. Full on Hispanic.
Yeah.
Yes, you can find me there. I'm honestly more active on TikTok, but my DMs are always open. I'm always happy to like make friends with everybody. So
And if you guys are in South Florida, she's a photographer and are looking for a photographer, definitely hit her up. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. Don't forget to follow I Missed Me on social media at I Missed Me Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, literally everywhere. If you're watching on YouTube, you can listen to this episode on all streaming platforms. Don't forget to follow me on social media at Mafe everywhere. And don't forget, I have a clothing brand at I Missed Me Project everywhere as well. Thank you guys again for watching. I will see you guys on our next episode. And don't forget, we're all strangers healing together. With love, Mafe.